Hello, everyone. The Sleepy here. It is currently morning, and I am currently a little hungover. And it appears that tanks have rolled up in front of the KSC. This looks like Eclipse Corp. We're getting a message from them. They're saying that they deny the validity of our munar Kethane mining contract, and they're going to prevent us from launching any other vessels into orbit. And these look like nasty little things. Look at that. They have little rockets on the end. So we have 3 tank pilots who have come up here and are threatening to shoot down anything we try to launch into orbit. Of course, doing so would be an act of war, so they're probably bluffing, but I don't really like the look of those tanks, and they clearly mean business. On top of that, something shot at our satellites, so, I mean, ideally we want to send something up to go find out what just shot down our satellite. So, I guess we're gonna go do that. Alright, that's the little Infernal Robotics logo right there. This is our original survey shuttle with the 2 satellites there on top. But since we might be sending it into combat, let's remove those and put something else there. We're gonna need fuel. There's a longer range. No, let's not use that. We should make our own torpedoes. Let me think about this. What? I actually had to reload right there because of a little bit of trouble I had, but I actually decided to go in here, put together a small fuel canister torpedo with one of the small docking ports on there. And because I wanted to actually be able to do some damage, I mean, usually if you watch many of the videos online, a lot of times people build KSP weapons with a pair of docking ports, one on the front, one on the back. But the impact tolerance of some of these aerodynamic nose cones, here I am looking for it. I can't find the nose cone. The impact tolerance for some of the aerodynamic nose cones is a whole lot higher, but they don't really have a good spot to put a docking port. However, this thing's probably not going to be seen in very much combat. It's only there for sort of a scouting mission. So we're going to put the nose cones on it and only send it up with 2 torpedoes that are not stackable. So we'll see how this goes. I'm going to call them Hammerhead torpedoes. That sounds like a good name.
Just a couple of looks, I hiked to enough where I hide and I built a plaza, a book, and they shook, and I can't help but look where I hide and I built my plaza. My mind around like a sweater, and I have myself strength, pull on it hard, but then figure out naked, piled up the knitting, and lying on the floor. But then I gather up yarn, I work upon the knitting, I work on it hard, and then I made myself a sweater and shiny.
Don't you dare do it. Don't you dare do it. Don't you oh no. Oh! Oh, that's bad. Guys? They're alive. I mean, we just spent millions of dollars, but they're alive. So that's good. Yeah. Stop playing with landing gear, guys. This thing's never taking off. It has no engines left. No, that doesn't... Get out of the ship. You're not going into space today. Good boy. He seems to be a little bit upset by the fact that he's not going to space today. He's angry. They're not shooting at him though, so I think we're good for now. Well, with our launch pad completely inaccessible for the time being until we deal with those tanks, we're going to try something else. We have a shuttle out here on Minimus that we can send to the moon. So we're going to use that shuttle to go and take a look at what happened on the moon. Now, we've got an eccentric orbit around the moon for our satellite, or what's left of it, along with whatever was shot at it. I'd really like to get a good look at those torpedoes they used to try and take us out. So we're going to switch to our shuttle here, our station to which the shuttle is docked. Remember how I spent 30 minutes trying to redock the shuttle from the anal docking port. YouTube friendly. So we're going to get Captain Jeb out here into the space shuttle. Hello, Jeb. And Jebediah will hopefully be... It's got the wiggles. Stop. No. Unwiggle. Okay, I think it's going to be okay. Really not sure why I got the wiggles right there. Anyway, Captain Jebediah is going to haul his butt over to the moon, get into orbit, sync up with the orbit of one of those torpedoes that missed the satellite, and hopefully dock with it. Maybe we can learn something about who sent it. Eclipse Corp were the ones who sent the tank, so this was probably Eclipse Corp that took out our satellite. But we should check and make sure, and we should see what kind of technology they're using. And if that ship's still there, maybe it's possible to hack one of their torpedoes. I don't know. But we'll give it a shot, because Jebediah is pretty good at doing things, even though I asked him not to. Like that one time he tried to fly his desk into space. Almost made it, too. Anyway, so Jeb... Actually, that looks like a pretty good transfer window, in all honesty, to the to Minimus. Well, that's good. Now, it's time for us to begin our investigation. We're going to accelerate time both in the video and in KSP around Minimus here and burn for the moon. Now, one of the issues with getting into this orbit around the moon is going to be the fact that the orbits of everything that we're aiming for in actuality is pretty far off the ecliptic from the Earth. That's why we don't get a lunar eclipse, a solar eclipse every month during the new moon. So our moon is actually pretty far off the ecliptic. On top of that, you have the tilt of the Earth. The expanded Kerbal Universe mod, the rescaled Kerbal Universe, makes everything the scale of Earth, and they, as far as I know, they also try to, so they increase everything by a factor of 10 in terms of scale, and they try to change the moon so that it's as far off the equator around Kerbin as it is for Earth, which results in a pretty entertaining looking orbit, because Kerbin doesn't have an axial tilt the way Earth does, so they try to include that too. The things you learn on YouTube while watching KSP. So here we're coming into our moon. What's the pronunciation on that? We're coming into our moon intercept. Mun. I don't really like mun, and I don't like moon either, so moon. Moon is how I'm going to pronounce it. And see how far we're going to have to expend a fair amount of delta V in order to get into that same orbital plane as our satellites. But fortunately we didn't have to expend very much to get to the moon itself. Although I suppose we could have done a slingshot around Kerbin if the moon was in a different position and aerobraked on Kerbin's atmosphere. Anyway, so we're going to have to burn now to get into those orbits, and that looks like a whole mess of orbits, but they all look like it's going to be pretty easy to hook up with them, so we should be able to go study some of the wreckage from that fight. Alright, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. We're going to skip ahead to syncing with the orbits directly. We've all done orbital transfers and orbital catches before. It actually worked out quite well. If I set it up just right, I'll be able to get an intercept on my first pass in the same orbital plane, which should minimize the amount of time any other vessel has to shoot at us. Now, I'm not sure, but the video imagery taken from the satellite before it ran out of power indicated that the vessel, the Warbird, the Phoenix class Warbird, had no ammunition left. Now, I'm not going to rely on that, but hopefully they didn't have any ammunition left. But even if they did, it's going to be pretty hard to catch us before we manage to hook up with one of those torpedoes that's been fired and lost into space. I always put a satellite head on any sort of weapon systems I make because I want to know where they are after I shoot them. I don't want them to be classified as debris. Also, it allows me to control them so you can fire... excuse me. So you can fire a torpedo into an orbit and then come back later if it still has fuel and power to get it to do something else. With that in mind, hopefully they don't have an active control system on their satellites. They probably know that we would go and check out what happened, try and check out the torpedoes they fired at us. Be careful out there, Jeb. And Bob. Captain Jeb and Lieutenant Bob Kerman. They might still be interested in damaging our vessels. Now, I do apologize for all the background noise in my narration. There's not much I can do about it. I don't have a proper microphone. I'm just using a headset. So here we are on our return. We're coming back in, and this is our approach to the probe. It's labeled as a probe on our HUD. But Jeb, Captain Jebediah, and Lieutenant Bob Kermit are both fully aware that this is a weapon of war. Hopefully they'll be able to get to it and utilize it, or at least figure out who's been shooting at us. Uh-oh. Well, that isn't good. It looks like it's still active. No, Jeb, be careful. Jeb, watch out. Jeb, it's shooting at you. No, 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 no. Ha! It didn't speed up enough to do any damage. It just sort of bounced off the ship. We can still pick it up. Awesome. We're gonna go pick that up. Jeb, Bob, go pick that thing up. See who made it. Alright, now that we've docked with it, we're going to try and figure out who built it. We've hacked into the thing. It seems Baron Bright Enterprises has built this. They're a small military consortium on Kerbin. We didn't know that they'd produced any space hardware, so we're somewhat surprised to see them here. This thing's actually been docked on backwards. These are stackable, so it doesn't matter which direction they're docked on, but we want to be able to use this, so we're going to have to undock it, flip it around, and then dock it again. This thing, it seems that it was originally designed to hone in on anything broadcasting a RFID of the Kraken Corporation, of Kraken Incorporated. But now that we know Baron Bright is up here, A, we're going to have words with their CEO, B, one of their ships is out here, and C, our ship just managed to hack one of their torpedoes. So we might lob it at them, pick up any survivors in case we damage their ship too badly. I mean, provided it's still up here, we're going to have to look around for it, but I'd say that's the current plan. Captain Jeb is not very pleased about having been shot at by this thing. they could have caused serious damage to the vessel. There's another torpedo in orbit that we may be able to go pick up as well, so we're going to go and see if we can get that. Okay, now we have one of the torpedoes. We're going to go examine that warbird, the Phoenix-class warbird, as it were. Here we are making our approach. The extra mass of the torpedo doesn't actually change very much because of the fuel. It's just getting redistributed. It's not any extra weight since the torpedo was empty when we picked it up. So here we are coming in to take a look at that warbird that attacked our satellite and may or may not have been controlling the torpedo when it attacked us. So we're going to go take a look at them. Maybe send them a little present, right, Jeb? Captain Jebediah is somewhat enthusiastic about this particular assignment. He's also been ordered to pick up any survivors. We're not trying to kill anybody here. We're just trying to make a point that we will defend our turf on the moon, that our contracts are legal, and that if pushed, we are fully capable of operating as a military force. Fire. Alright, let's take a look. That is a tough old bird. There appears to be no damage. Barely even impacted the surface. Well, let's take a look at it. Let's see who built this particularly tough ship. Take a look at who's flying it. Because we couldn't destroy their ship and we couldn't damage it, we're going to have to leave ours here in orbit around the moon, preferably in the same orbit too. Sort of a standoff, if you will. We're out of weapons. They have no ammunition, you could see when we were looking at it. So we're both going to wind up here staring at each other for a while. Captain Jebediah is somewhat annoyed that his shot just bounced off the surface. I'm sure that Baron Bright, their employee out there, is equally annoyed that his shots against our ship were ineffective. But I think all in all this is one of the better outcomes. Not as good as I had hoped. It didn't damage their craft just enough that it could limp home. Let's take a look at it close up. Since we're here, we're not going to ram their ship. If either of these ships get destroyed, it's going to be a serious problem. But take a look at that design. It only has 2 nuclear engines. Very fuel efficient, but it doesn't have quite as much fuel as our vessel. More solar panels. I suppose it's some system redundancy, and it appears to have armored plates on it. This ship was clearly designed as a military vessel. We're going to have to upgrade our vessels in general, because it looks like we might have to start defending our moon territory rights. Here's Bob trying to create some schematics, some specifications for our new nemesis. Well, that's that, I guess. We're going to have to leave this in orbit. We're going to have to change our plans, and we're going to have to deal with those tanks outside the KSC. We'll do that in the next episode. Fly safe, fly smart, and don't burn too much Delta V on the takeoff.